Hi everyone. This is new territory for me, a new format, a new platform. But it felt like time to grow into it. So the first piece I want to put out is for the men watching. And honestly, it's overdue. I've had message after message land in my inbox from men circling the same question over and over. What is my purpose? And where does God fit into what it means to be a man? I keep having to answer it because I keep watching the same pattern play out in the world. Men getting pulled off course by their fixation on women, losing themselves in the process, and ending up so hollow that they start hunting for their own identity inside relationships and outside circumstances instead of inside themselves. If you've read The Alchemist, you already know the shape of this story. The treasure was never where you went looking for it. It was buried under your own house the whole time. A man has to individuate. He has to go looking for his own soul before he goes looking for anyone else's, and that means clearing his life of whatever is pulling his attention sideways, and building one straight line of focus toward finding his own kingdom, his own people, his own footing, because only then can he actually recognize a woman worth calling his equal, someone capable of walking beside him instead of holding him up. And here's the part that matters for how women move through the world too. She isn't separate from this process, she reflects it. A woman in a man's life works like a mirror. She shows him his strength, sure, but she also shows him exactly where he's weak, exactly what he's been avoiding in himself. This is precisely why so many men end up furious at women without realizing why. They keep attracting the same type of woman, again and again, through the same patterns of connection, and her energy ends up reflecting straight back whatever he brought into the exchange. She becomes a living readout of what's actually holding him back, and most men never clock this. They blame her for a loop they built. But that same mirror that frustrates him is also the exact tool that could set him free. It's showing him precisely what needs to be burned off so the real self underneath can surface. This isn't only a men's issue, either. Everyone should be reading their relationships as mirrors. I'm just speaking to men specifically today because our collective, our relationships, our whole social fabric, is suffering from not treating connection as a doorway to healing. So step one for any man doing this work: stop chasing women to fill the tank. Stop trying to get your ego fed through female attention. Redirect all of that toward one focused path, your own. Watch yourself honestly here. If a connection ends and your instinct is to immediately go find another one to plug the hole, you're not pursuing love. You're leaking your own energy into a bottomless need, handing yourself over to be used up. That's not on her. That's on the mindset you walked in with, one built on scarcity instead of strength, courage, and abundance. And playing the avoidant boy who won't commit to his own path while expecting a woman to trust him with her heart. That's not fair to either of you. Whatever energy you bring to a woman is the energy that comes back to you, amplified. I've been on both sides of this. I've helped men build careers, and I've also been the chaos in a relationship. The difference was always in how I was approached going in. One practical tool here: abstaining from sex. Pulling back from that release gives you access to real clarity. It stops the lower centers, the sacral especially, from draining every ounce of your focus downward. When you hold that energy instead of pouring it out constantly, it rises into the heart, the throat, the mind's eye, the crown, and from up there you can actually hear your own voice instead of the noise of appetite. And this isn't only about sex. The same pattern shows up in a man who's out every weekend chasing a high, or chasing money purely to feel better about himself. Chasing success to patch a wound is still feeding the same hungry emptiness. If the starting point is, "I need this to feel whole," you've built on a cracked foundation, and no amount of achievement fixes a crack. It just builds a bigger structure on top of it, guaranteeing a bigger collapse. Start instead from the heart, from the soul, already whole, and what you attract afterward will actually build you up instead of exposing the gap. Once you're anchored there, treat the whole world as your mirror. Everything reflects you back to yourself if you're paying attention. There's a reason the masculine is symbolized as outward-facing, projecting. You're meant to move through the world and leave a mark on it, not disappear into it. If you keep pouring your power into things that swallow it whole, you'll never find out what you were capable of because you spent it before you got there. Use the world like a blade, cut through your own resistance with it. That resistance will show up in tempting deals with strings attached, in people who test your discipline, in situations engineered to reveal exactly what you haven't dealt with yet. Somewhere inside you already know which of these paths is actually yours. The only question is whether you have the discipline to walk away from the ones that aren't, even the ones dressed up to look right. When your foundation is solid and moving with real momentum, you won't need to search for a partner. She'll arrive on the road you're already walking. Not hunted, not chased, met. And when that happens, it means there's something in her for you to learn, something for you to grow through. If you're carrying resentment toward women in general, you're missing the point entirely. She isn't the obstacle, she's part of the curriculum. Think of it like chess. Lose the queen and the game isn't over, but it gets dramatically harder to win without her. She's the most powerful piece on the board, not the one determining the outcome alone, but the one that makes everything else possible. If you keep running into the same situation on repeat, that repetition is telling you something about yourself, not about the women involved. Any woman can be either a trap or a key, depending entirely on the energy you bring to her. Approach with real intention, and she reflects that back and helps you rise. Approach trying to fill a hole with her, and she'll hand you back exactly what that energy deserves. That's the real mechanism behind the idea of karma, working through connection like a current. Move through the world with awareness, and it plays out like a game you're equipped to win. Get pulled under by illusion and old appetite, and you're playing blind. So start there. Pull back, observe your path, and approach the process like a student, humbled in front of something bigger than yourself. When something shows up in your life, read it for the message it's carrying instead of reacting to the surface of it. Discipline is the doorway into that kind of listening. It quiets you down enough to actually hear your own instincts, your own history, the patterns you've repeated, and the places you could have chosen differently. Every hard moment you push through instead of running from builds something real, not just confidence, but a deeper capacity to actually love, including loving the women in your life. Because you start to understand that the friction they represent was never the enemy, it was the unlock. Approach from ego, though, and that same friction becomes a cage instead of a key. I want to dig deeper into all of this in future videos, but I wanted to open with the core of it. And to the women watching, this cuts both ways. Look for a man who's already doing this work, who already knows what matters to him and where he's headed, because you will feel it in your gut when something's off. And if you're not careful, you'll start absorbing and reflecting whatever unfinished energy he's carrying instead of your own. Don't let anyone talk you out of your own center. You were built for this role. The world takes its emotional temperature from the masculine energy running through it, which is exactly why spreading yourself thin across too many people's energy leaves you scattered instead of grounded. Anchor to one person who is actually oriented towards something, someone with a real direction for his life, and the exchange becomes reciprocal instead of draining. Wanting the best for yourself is what makes you capable of wanting the best for someone else. That's the whole engine of a relationship that lasts through friction instead of breaking under it. Every relationship you enter is either a loop that keeps you stuck or a door that opens something better, and which one it becomes depends entirely on whether you can master your own reactions and your own appetite. A woman's emotion, used well, is intuition, fuel she can hand back to a partner who's earned it through how he shows up. He brings the long horizon. She brings the light that makes the path visible in the dark. Sun and moon, different jobs, same sky. But a man who's splitting his energy across multiple women is putting every one of them in a defensive posture, because what he's offering was compromised before it even reached her. Pay attention to what happens in your life when you approach love with real respect versus when you approach it from confusion and drift. You'll feel the difference show up everywhere, not just in relationships. Opportunities close, resources dry up. And that's not punishment, that's just consequence. the deeper structure of the world doesn't hand its gifts to people approaching it carelessly. Move from real reverence for yourself and for others, and doors open that effort alone can't force. There's a reason certain symbols recur across traditions: creative, sexual energy shown as a serpent, capable of being poison or medicine depending entirely on how it's handled. Same energy, two outcomes, and the difference is what you do with it. That's the whole principle in miniature. Nothing is fixed as good or bad, it's shaped by what you bring to it. That's about 20 minutes, so I'll leave it there for now. I'm still finding my footing with this format. I hope it landed with you. Subscribe if you want more of this. I'll be doing shorter pieces too, and drop your questions in the comments. I want to know what you want unpacked next. This is a new beginning on my end, and if it resonated, thank you for being here. Talk soon.